Limiting beliefs rarely ruin your life overnight. They do something worse. They quietly decide the conversations you avoid, the risks that you don't take, and the version of yourself that you never become. And that is how your potential wastes away. So in this video, I am going to show you what limiting beliefs really are, why fighting against them only makes them stronger, and what to do instead if you really want to let go so that they stop controlling your decisions. Hi, I'm Jody Jackson, a neuroencoding specialist who uses neuroscience to train your brain for high performance so that you can rewire your reality for the results you most want. Before I show you how to get rid of the BS that holds you back, and by BS, I mean belief systems. So let's start simple, right? What is a belief? A belief is nothing more than a feeling of absolute certainty. That's it. It is not necessarily a fact. It's just a story that you have told yourself so many times that you've just stopped questioning it. And a limiting belief is just simply a feeling of certainty about a limitation. It's those voices that say, I can't, I'm not, it's too late, I don't know how, right? It's those voices that pull you back and it keeps you circling below your potential. And once the limiting belief is installed, it colors your entire existence. Right? It's like wearing a pair of tinted glasses. If you put on red tinted glasses, everything in the world looks red. So if your belief is, I'm not worthy, then your brain will literally filter your experience through that lens. So it will ignore anything that shows you that you are, and it will allow in everything that proves that you're not. So your brain will defend that limitation, and it does it automatically. And that is why it can feel so impossible to move past it. And it's not because you lack intelligence. You probably know you don't want to think some of the things that you think. And it's not because of a lack of motivation, right? You've probably tried to push past it before. And when you haven't been able to, you beat yourself up. And let me tell you, if you are trying to use these tactics of knowledge or discipline, then you are applying the wrong solution because you've misdiagnosed the problem. The reason limiting beliefs can feel impossible to move past is because of something else, right? It is not just in your imagination. And to explain what I mean, I want to show you something that you've probably seen before, but you haven't seen it like this. It is the story of an ant. So this ant walks around and around inside a circle of ink, and it never crosses the line. And people love to use this video as a metaphor for limiting beliefs. And they say things like, see, the ant is trapped by its imagination. There is nothing there. There is no real wall. There is no real danger. The limitation is all in its head. And it can make us think all we need to do is step over the line of our own fears. But this is wrong. The ant is not trapped by its imagination. The ant is trapped by chemistry. And in a moment, I'm going to show you why you are too. So here is what most people don't realize. The ink, it actually contains chemical deterrents. So the ink smells different, it tastes different, it is unfamiliar to the ant. And so what happens is that smell triggers a survival instinct in the ant that says do not cross. It is not a mental block, it is a biological response designed to keep the ant safe. And you work in exactly the same way. It is not invisible. It is not all in your head. You have a biological response too, from the chemistry that's released when you are approaching your fear. And here is what this looks like in real life. So let's say you have a belief that you are bad at public speaking, and now you've been asked to speak at your friend's wedding. And your body, in that moment, it creates a biochemical reaction. Your amygdala floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. Your chest might tighten. Your heart might race. Your survival instinct is literally kicking in. And that's why the just go through with it mentality, it doesn't work. It's like telling the ant, be confident, come on, push past it. It doesn't work because there is something else at play. Now, quick heads up, before we dive back in, if those internal dynamics that I just mentioned sound familiar, I am hosting a free masterclass designed specifically for you. So it is built for founders and entrepreneurs who have the roadmap, but they feel held back by hesitation or by invisible blocks. And if you want to join, you'll find the link in the description. I would love to see you there. So how does the ant actually cross the line? Well, it's the same way you should. It doesn't just try harder, it doesn't use willpower or discipline, because those are the wrong solution to the actual problem. Force does not work, or at least it's the least effective thing to work. And this is what most people use. When they feel that inner friction, most people try to white knuckle their way through their limiting beliefs, right? They either try to ignore them or they just do it anyway. And this is the hard way. Let me give you a quick example. If you have a goal that you're moving towards and you have some beliefs that don't tie up with that, with what you're trying to create. So let's say you want to write that book or start that business or speak on that stage, whatever it is, right? And you have somewhere inside, there's a belief that says, well, what if I fail publicly? What if no one buys from me? What if this costs me everything? If you have some beliefs inside that could cause you to doubt yourself, right? If you've got some stinking thinking, then you feel that resistance, that inner resistance, and it slows you down. It drains your energy because your energy is split between your desires and your doubts. And then when you get tired of pushing, what happens? You ping back to what feels familiar. Pushing forward while carrying your limiting beliefs, it's like the ant just moving the edge of the circle rather than removing the edge of the circle, right? And here is why. What you resist persists. So when you fight a belief, you're actually focusing on it. And in the brain, neurons that fire together wire together. So by constantly engaging with the old narrative, even if you are arguing with it, you're actually reinforcing that neural pathway. So if fighting the belief doesn't work and ignoring it doesn't work, then what does? Well, let's go back to the ant. What does the ant do to escape and live outside of the limitation? It waits until the chemical no longer registers as a threat, or it waits for the scent to evaporate. Right? Once the chemical becomes neutral, the ant just walks. There is no struggle because there's no longer a threat. And that, my friends, is how to get rid of limiting beliefs. You neutralize them. Or I should say more specifically, you emotionally neutralize them, right? You are not deleting the belief. You're just decoupling from it. You remove that emotional energy that keeps it alive so it no longer controls you, it no longer guides your choices. A neutralized belief, it's just a thought. It has no power. You can still think the thought, but it has no charge or energy, so it doesn't guide your decision. And when you emotionally neutralize it, you don't release that strong survival instinct. You don't release that biochemistry into your nervous system. So it stops reacting to that thought. And because of that, you don't have to fight it anymore. And that is why so many people feel like they're fighting themselves. It's because they're battling at the wrong layer. So now you know that you aren't trapped by your imagination. You are trapped by your chemistry. The moment the emotional charge dissolves, the belief is no longer useful. The system stops reinforcing it. Attention withdraws from it. Memory reconsolidates. And your identity reorganizes naturally, right? That is the real shift. You don't let go of limiting beliefs. They let go of you the moment you stop being emotionally attached to them. And what it feels like when this belief finally lets go, the trigger shows up, but you don't respond. The old story appears, but it doesn't guide your decisions like it used to. You feel space, you feel neutrality, and even gratitude for what it taught you. You move through decisions with more confidence and more joy instead of friction and fear. Now you might be asking, Jody, that sounds great, but how do I actually neutralize a belief that's been wired into my brain for 20 years, right? How do I make the ink evaporate? And I'm going to take you inside my process called memory confusion. And I'm going to show you the exact neuroencoding technique I use with my high-performing clients to unclip the emotional charge from their old stories so that they finally lose their power. It is what allows you to actually take off those red tinted glasses. Now, I do this with my clients inside my Master Your Mind Accelerator, and you can apply in the link below. And before I take you through it, you have to understand this first. Your brain works in patterns, right? It works in loops. You think a thought, you feel a feeling, and you respond with either action or avoidance. And if it's a belief, it's automatic. But if you, step 1, become aware of what your limiting beliefs are, then step 2, you can intentionally bring this belief to the surface. And then step 3, you interrupt the pattern. And when you do this, it kind of opens this file on that belief. And it's just for a brief period of time. It's editable before it gets saved again. So as a neuroencoding specialist, this is where I work. If we can open the file and then we do step 4, which is introduce new information, then we can change the emotional code of that memory before the brain hits save again. And if you do this enough times, right, because that is how your brain rewires through repetition and emotion, both of which we're playing with when we do this, then it evaporates the ink. It reduces the emotional charge, enough for you to take action with greater ease, right? You don't have to force yourself over the line. the threat of the line becomes neutralized. And then when you take action and feel okay, it's reinforced with evidence and it helps create and stabilize your new beliefs. Right? This is the difference between managing your limitations and rewiring them. Managing them takes work every day. Rewiring them changes who you are. So I want you to take a look at the ink circles in your own life right now, right? Maybe it's the business you haven't started, the conversations that you might be avoiding, or the version of yourself that you've been afraid to claim. And stop beating yourself up for not having the willpower to just get over it. You aren't lacking discipline. You've just been respecting a biological boundary that your brain thought was keeping you safe. But today, that can change. Once you understand that your brain is editable, that the save button hasn't been pressed for the last time, you realize that you are no longer a victim of your past wiring, right? You can become the architect of your future. And if you are ready to stop fighting the old patterns and start encoding new ones, then click on the link below and apply for the Master Your Mind Accelerator.